In the 17th century, there lived a family out in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. The mother, Deborah Leeds, had given birth to 12 children, and when she found out she was pregnant yet again, she screamed and cursed. She swore to her husband and the midwife that the 13th child would be the reincarnation of the devil himself. One stormy night, Mother Leeds fell into labor. She wailed and screamed in pain as the newborn kicked and wallowed. After hours of painful labor, the 13th child was born, looking like a normal, healthy baby. But in an instant, the newborn changed into a hideous creature with a goat's head, bat wings, claw hands, a forked tail, and hooves as feet. In one fell swoop, it attacked and killed the midwife, then flew into the chimney and escaped, hunting and killing local children in the surrounding area. Since that incident, it was known as the Leeds Devil, or Devil of Leeds. Due to the lack of technology, reports of incidents have been extraordinarily rare. In the year 1840, over 100 years later, a large number of farmers woke up to their cattle and other livestock dead in the morning. They attributed the Jersey Devil with the disturbing killings. Again, in the following year, screams were heard during the night, and farmers once again woke up to their livestock dead. Once again, they attributed the killings to the Jersey Devil. Nothing else was documented. In January 1909, a wave of creature sightings were reported all over New Jersey. Perhaps the best-known sighting was when a councilman claimed to have woken up from the sound of flapping wings around his property. The moment the sound of the wings stopped flapping, something heavy landed on top of the councilman's roof. Scared and frozen in place of fear, the councilman tried to sleep it off, but he kept hearing the sound of hooves walking on top of his house. By the time the sun came out, the creature was gone. The councilman slowly crept outside to investigate what thing was outside the night before. To his disbelief, he found cloven footprints in the snow not far from his private property. Since the councilman's sighting, several other instances were reported, and people ran to journalists, reporters, and police to report their claims. Reports included attacks in the night while riding a trolley car, unidentified hooves and footprints on private property, and sightings of a mysterious goat-like creature at night. One such incident recalls an officer on night patrol. He was doing his nightly walks when he noticed something at the corner of his eyes. When he turned his head, he saw a tall creature with his back against the officer. The officer shot at the creature with no effect. The creature then flapped its wings and flew away. Not long after, the sightings of the Jersey Devil were no longer limited to just New Jersey. In the summer of 1937, an unknown creature with red eyes was seen up in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. It watched as the children slept and stood as motionless as a statue. 1 second it was there, and the next it was gone. There have been countless people who claimed that they heard or saw the Jersey Devil rampaging through the woods or screaming bloody murder in the forests. So much so that in 1960, merchants in the city of Camden, New Jersey, put up an offer of $10,000 as a reward for anyone who could capture the so-called Jersey Devil. In fact, they offered to build a private zoo for the creature if it was ever captured. It was quite evident that by now, the media and everyone else had their eyes on the Jersey Devil. Everybody wanted to know what it was. Was it even a real thing? Is it an urban legend or a real monster? With rewards such as a $10,000 cash reward, many fake hoaxes were exposed. One infamous hoaxer, Norman Jeffries, who was familiar with the Jersey Devil story, revealed to the press and the public that he had decidedly worn shoes that outlined a horse's hoof and walked in the snow at night, scaring the local residents. However, this one hoax does not disregard the sightings that were far away from where Norman Jeffries did his pranks. Incidents that were thousands of kilometers away from each other held the same sightings of hoof prints in the snow, creatures in the night with large bat-like wings, and sounds of disturbing screams in the forests. Of course, with the increased publicity, as it seemed that more and more people were looking out for the infamous Jersey Devil, could it have simply hid from the public? One thing is for certain, however, that is, the number of sightings have dropped drastically, and even with advanced technology, there have been no whereabouts of where the Jersey Devil may have gone. But legend has it that it still roams the Pine Barrens. A Redditor shares his dark encounter with the Jersey Devil. I was up at night. It was only about 10 p.m. when I was laying in bed, drifting off to sleep. Suddenly, I hear what sounded like horse hooves walking around outside my window. I rationalized to myself that it must have been sounds coming from the horse farm far down the road from my house. But as I tried to rationalize it, the less the idea made sense to me. Firstly, it was late at night, and there would be no reason as to why the horses should be wandering out this late. And secondly, the horse farm was miles away from where I live. I froze in fear. My sweat drenched my bed, and my eyes darted towards the window. I wanted to get up and look out the window, but the ultimate sense of dread and death stopped me. The sounds stopped, and I knew that something was right outside my house, lurking. I stayed in bed for what felt like hours when I eventually got brave enough to peek out my window. What I saw shook me to my core. A creature standing on my deck. It had bat-like wings and a pronounced snout. 2 horns sprouted from its head, and it had 2 smaller claws on its upper body with horse-like lower legs. It looked at me for a moment before beating its wings and flying away. I didn't sleep at all that night. This account of the Jersey Devil has been reported years ago, and since then, there have not been coverage on it. Of course, with such cryptic creatures, it is always best to dig a little bit deeper into the origin story. It is common for such creatures to stem from imagination, a story to be told by residents of Pine Barren to entertain or teach kids morals and values. The Pine Barrens is notorious for a number of legends, such as Captain Kidd, a ghost that is headless and wanders around the area; the Black Dog, which is a ghostly creature that is said to roam around the beach and the woods; the Black Doctor, who was banned from practicing medicine, subsequently halting his income and means of living indefinitely. Feeling unjust about his situation, he moved to the Pine Barrens and continued studying medicine, helping those who were in trouble, even decades after his death. The White Stag, which is a white deer that aids travelers who are lost and desperate, and the golden-haired girl, who lost her lover at sea and waits patiently for his arrival. Not only this, but the devastating environment of the Pine Barrens may have been a strong influence on the creation of the creature. Historically speaking, the Pine Barrens were considered to be inhospitable and housed criminals and thieves. Robbery was a common theme, as travelers would be attacked quite frequently for their goods while traversing the lands of the Pine Barrens. Aside from historical landscapes, an interesting story involving the Jersey Devil relates to Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. Back in the 17th century, there lived a family of 14, Japhet Leeds, his wife Deborah Leeds, and their 12 children. They all lived in Leeds Point, which is now known as Atlantic County, New Jersey. Benjamin Franklin was an early New Jersey politician, and his rival almanac publisher, Daniel, was from the Leeds family. An almanac is an annual publication of current information about one or many subjects. It could have information about weather forecasts, water waves, times of sunrises and sunsets, and more. Daniel had several children, and his second wife and first daughter had both died during childbirth, which resonates familiarly with the Jersey Devil legend. Daniel had strong connections with the British Crown, which led him to acquiring Leeds Point, one of the many areas in the Pine Barrens which holds a large number of Jersey Devil sightings. Daniel Leeds wrote almanacs that used astrological thoughts and ideologies. At the time, astrology and astrological content had quite a negative connotation and was mostly associated with pagan ideologies and was considered blasphemous. Regardless of that, Daniel Leeds published his almanacs and continued with his controversial works. In 1716, after Daniel Leeds' death, his son, Titan Leeds, inherited his almanac business and continued to publish works with astrology and astrological content. As time passed, his business became a strong competitor for Benjamin Franklin's almanac, called Poor Richard's Almanac. The competition grew stronger and stronger until 1738, when Titan Leeds tragically died. Prior to that time, Benjamin Franklin began rumors about Titan Leeds in hopes of boosting his own almanac sales, calling the Leeds occultists and devils, and even after Titan Leeds' death, Benjamin Franklin depicted Titan Leeds as a ghost, still publishing the same astrological almanacs. Moreover, it didn't help that in 1728, Titan Leeds included the family crest in his works. The crest was depicted as a wyvern with bat-like wings and a dragon head that stood upright. With this, it can be seen that many characteristics of the Jersey Devil origin story had strong influences from the real Leeds family that lived in the 17th century. However, even with this thought in mind, this does not explain what creature or monster people were seeing in the 1900s, 200 years later. The accounts of creatures in the night and creatures attacking trolleys cannot simply be ignored. What do you think the Jersey Devil is? Do you believe it is real, or is it just a myth? Is there perhaps more to this legend than we thought? Have you ever saw a creature like the Jersey Devil? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you for watching.